So, I am going to speak to you in the next 18 minutes about a diamond that everyone thinks they know about. There have been many books written about the Koh-i-noor. There have been articles. If you go online, you'll see Wikipedia. And the story of the Koh-i-noor, as it's been told for the last 200 years, goes something like this. The Koh-i-noor Diamond, which we can, with a bit of luck, get a slide up. No, the slide is not working. Can we have the next slide, please? The Koh-i-noor Diamond was discovered in the midst of antiquity, in the depths of the Godavari diamond mines in southern India. It was taken, the largest diamond in the world, and put in the eye of an idol in one of the temples of the Kakatiya dynasty. In due course, the wicked idol-breaking Khalji dynasty came, seized the diamond, took it to Delhi. It then passed to the even more wicked, more idolatrous breaking Tughlaqs, who then passed it on to the Lodhis, seized by the Mughals, who kept it until, famously, Muhammad Shah Rangila hid it in his turban when the Persian invader Nadir Shah turned up, and hid it there from the Persian invader. And its location was betrayed by a wicked courtesan called Nurbai, who was sleeping both with Nadir Shah and the Mughal emperor. And she told Nadir Shah where it was. So as he left, he said to the emperor, "My brother, as a last gesture of affection and friendship, let us swap turbans." And so it was that the Koh-i-noor passed from the Mughal Empire to the Persians. Now, everything that I have just told you in the last 3 minutes is bullshit. Not one of those facts that is relayed over and over again, has been for 160 years. Not one of them has even a basis in fact. And yet it's been repeated and believed for centuries. And over the last year, while Anita Anand and I have been working on this diamond, we have been unable to find a single solid, unequivocal reference to this stone before 1751. And at that point, you get a Persian historian called Muhammad Marvi, who was one of Nadir Shah's soldiers involved in the invasion of the Mughal Empire. And he writes, "I have seen the Koh-i-noor. It is attached to the head of the peacock in the peacock throne that Nadir Shah took from Delhi. Now it is in Herat, what's Western Afghanistan today. And it's there in this magnificent tent that Nadir Shah built and covered with all the jewels he took from Delhi. But there is not one single reference to the Koh-i-noor before that actually stands up to any kind of scrutiny. And as historians, it's very important to stick strictly to your sources. Stories spread, legends proliferate, facts create themselves out of myths. But as historians, you have to go back to the original sources. And frankly, everything that's ever been said about the Koh-i-noor's ancient history, its discovery in southern India, its passage through all these different dynasties, there is not one single jot of evidence for any of it. We do actually, though, know quite a lot about the status of diamonds in ancient India. Diamonds in the ancient world all came from this country. There were a few black diamonds in the mountains of Borneo, but otherwise all the great diamonds were discovered in southern India. Not mined, oddly enough. There was no such thing in ancient India as a diamond mine. They were instead sifted and sieved from the sands of extinct riverbeds, coming out of very specific geological strata. And throughout ancient India, men sieved through these sands and found tiny octahedral natural diamond crystals. And from the earliest antiquity, from the time of the pyramids, these have been one of India's principal exports. The pyramids were polished with Indian diamonds. And they were valued in Hellenic Afghanistan. They were hugely popular for their novelty value in Augustan Rome, in Tang, China. Everyone knew that these crystals were the hardest substance in existence. And rich ladies in the Rome of Augustus and Tiberius would compete to own one of these exotic crystals, which, like spices, were things that did not exist in the West, and which gained in the kind of mythology of their travels. No one knew how diamonds were created in the West, so their price rose. They were considered hugely, hugely costly and important. But it was only in India that they were considered actually religious objects. The Bhagavad Purana and the Garuda Purnima talk about how diamonds came from the body of the demon Valla, who offered to be sacrificed for the good of the gods. And wherever his body fell, there were the seedbeds of gems, rather like the Amrit out of the Kumbh. And mines could be found proliferating under the ground where the bones or the body of the demon Valla fell. And the Garuda Purnima says that if you own a diamond, great auspiciousness will come to you. You will have many wives and girlfriends, your harvest will be teeming, your house will be overloaded with gold, and oddly, the thieves will fly from your house. Now, normally it's not the experience of people that if they have diamonds, thieves go in the opposite direction. And by the time that the Bhagavad Purana is written, a century later, in the 10th century probably, reaches its final form, you have a much more realistic assessment whereby the great diamonds inspire envy, murder, and bloodshed. And the greatest of all the gems in the Bhagavad Purana is the Sayamantika gem, the gem of Surya, the sun god. And it's the most wonderful thing. It's the source of the radiance of the sun. But when it comes down to earth, so valuable, so exciting is this extraordinary gem that everyone kills for it. So it is given by Surya to the king of Dwarka. He lends it to his brother, who goes off hunting in the forest. A lion kills him for it first. Then a bear comes and kills the lion. Krishna has to go and retrieve it. He gives it to his father-in-law as a present at the wedding of one of his wives. And then his father-in-law is killed for it. So it leaves this trail of bloodshed behind it. And this is the origin of this trope that you get first in Indian literature and then passed on to Victorian literature, to books like The Moonstone or Disraeli's Lothair, whereby diamonds are cursed objects. And while they're very much things to be desired, they're also things to be feared. Now, when the Mughals came to India, they had a quite different tradition about diamonds. The Mughals believed that diamonds were very nice, splendid and wonderful objects, but for them, the supreme gem was the spinel, which is like a ruby, and is found in the mountains of Badakhshan in Afghanistan. They liked red stones of light. And these red stones of light, you find referred to in the Babur Nama, in the Jahangir Nama. They love these red stones. They trigger references in Persian poetry going back to Hafez and Ferdowsi. And for them, diamonds were the second tier. Abu Faisal, in his Akbarnama, says very explicitly that the top tier of the Mughal treasury was reserved for spinels and rubies, red stones, while emeralds, sapphires, diamonds, and pearls went in the second tier. Anyway, the Mughals expanded southwards, and in the course of the 17th century, during the reigns of Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, they seized the diamond mines of the Deccan when they conquered Golconda and Bijapur. And it may have been at that time, possibly, that the Koh-i-Noor came into Mughal hands, but we simply do not know. But the Mughals, by the time of Shah Jahan, had gained so much of India's ancient diamond wealth, so many of these stones gathered by court after court, kingdom after kingdom, north and south, had ended up in the Mughal treasury, that Shah Jahan decided that he should use these stones for the purpose of dynastic propaganda. If we could move forward 2 or 3 slides. Yeah, sure, for that. So he builds the most expensive piece of furniture ever built in the history of mankind. This piece of furniture cost 4 times the cost of the Taj Mahal. And this is the peacock throne. And it is literally hotching and heaving with the greatest gems in the world. The treasuries of the Red Fort are emptied to fill this amazing baldachin. It's not a throne in the Western sense, a musnad. It's like a kiosk. And on top of it are these 2 peacocks. It's meant to resemble the throne of Solomon. And there are numerous references to the Quranic description of the throne of Solomon in its symbolism, including the peacocks. And so if you were a pious Muslim who knew his Quran, you would look at the peacock throne, and the idea was that you'd associate the Mughals with Solomon and thus see them as legitimate and wise rulers. And the likelihood is that it was attached to the head of the peacock, because it's extremely unlikely that anyone added it later. So maybe the first thing we can say with a fair degree of probability is that however it came into Mughal hands, the Koh-i-noor was attached to the head of one of the peacocks on the top of the peacock throne. Now, it stays there for several generations until the reign of, next slide please, Muhammad Shah Rangila. Now, Muhammad Shah Rangila is a lot of fun. Muhammad Shah Rangila knows how to enjoy himself. This is him playing holy in the Red Fort with courtesans dressed in women's clothing. Now, this is everything that his great-grandfather Aurangzeb would have completely hated. He'd be spinning in his graves. It's a Hindu festival. These are courtesans. They're playing music. He would have abhorred this. And Muhammad Shah Rangila had fun on a variety of fronts. There's a picture, next picture, of him who's depicted looking out from his balcony, next picture. He even depicts himself making love, next picture. But the nemesis of Muhammad Shah Rangila is this man, Nadir Shah. And Nadir Shah is the opposite of Muhammad Shah Rangila. He's no fun at all. He's the son of a shepherd in Central Asia. He gains power with incredible military prowess. He invents something called the swivel gun. That's like the ancestor of the tank. It means he realizes that if you put a tripod onto the bridle of a horse, you can support a very heavy rifle, a jazail. And he sails into India with this new military technology. He lures the Mughals into a full-scale attack, and nearly 1 million men are in the Mughal camp. Not all of those by any means are fighting men. There are jugglers and jesters. They bring the whole panoply of the court and all its pleasure to the battlefield. And the Mughals are very chivalrous. They want sword play, they want direct contact with the enemy. The Persians are far more canny. They lure the Mughals out of their entrenchment. This massive heavy cavalry charge takes place. Maybe 150, 200,000 horsemen racing down the plains of Karnal. And at the last minute, the light Persian cavalry part like a curtain, and in front of them are these swivel guns lined up in horses, and minutes later, the flower of Mughal chivalry lie dead on the ground. Nadir Shah goes into the Red Fort, and he helps himself to all the accumulated wealth that the Mughals have gathered over 8 generations of looting everywhere else in India. Now, we British like to think that we were pretty good at looting this country. In fact, loot was one of the very first Hindi words that entered the English language. But we were right amateurs compared to Nadir Shah. Nadir Shah loads up 10,000 wagons with jewels and gold, 5,000 camels and 7,000 horses. They all leave Afghanistan, and he takes them back to Persia, including, as well as the Koh-i-noor and the peacock throne, the other bigger diamonds that everyone forgets about. The Darya-noor, which is bigger than the Koh-i-noor. The Orlov, the great Mughal diamond, which is bigger than the Koh-i-noor. The Koh-i-noor is actually only the 90th biggest diamond in the world. And he takes it to such a where it goes to Ahmed Shah Abdali. Ahmed Shah Abdali, the man who defeated the Marathas at Panipat and left the vacuum which the British would eventually fill. And Ahmed Shah Abdali is the head of the bodyguard of Nadir Shah. When Nadir Shah is assassinated, Ahmed Shah Abdali takes it. And he founds the Kingdom of Afghanistan using the Koh-i-noor as capital. But like many people in history, they have so much power, so much wealth, but they never have happiness. In his case, dramatically so, because his face is being eaten away by a tumor. And he has to cover it with a silver diamond-studded mask, like Robocop or something. Ahmad Shah Abdali keeps the diamond. It goes to his son, then to his grandson. Next slide. This is Shah Shuja, his grandson, who looks a bit like an extra from The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings here, but was in fact the last king of Afghanistan. And when he is kicked out, it is taken by, next slide, Ranjit Singh, the king of the Punjab. And Ranjit Singh gets it like everybody else through violence. He tortures Shah Shuja's son in front of him. Ranjit Singh is this amazing ruler who rolls back the Afghan empire as far as the Khyber Pass, the modern Afghan border. And he regards the Koh-i-noor, the great diamond associated with the descendants of Ahmad Shah Durrani. He regards this as the great jewel, the symbol of his sovereignty. And it's only with Ranjit Singh that the Koh-i-noor is mentioned for the first time regularly in texts of the court. He wears it on his arm. He's taken it off the peacock throne, it's on his arm, and he proudly displays it. Anita Anand, who's going to come on next, will tell you how this diamond went to the British. But I'm going to leave you on the tenterhooks of what happens at the end of Ranjit Singh's reign. Ranjit Singh has turned this diamond into the symbol of his sovereignty. But as he's dying of a stroke, he wants it to go to the Jagannath temple in Puri, the great temple of Orissa. And he has left instructions that it should go that way, but his treasurer believes it's not his to give. It's the symbol now of the Sikh Khalsa state. And he says, Beli Misi Ram, the treasurer, even as Ranjit Singh is alive, unable to articulate, lying on a stroke on his deathbed, longing for this diamond to be sent off to Orissa, Beli Misi Ram has hidden it. And as he dies, no one knows where it will go. The story will be continued next by Anita Anand. Thank you very much.